Alright, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today a review on a book by Stephen King called Under the Dome, Christian Perspective. And, well, you might be thinking, why a Christian perspective on a Stephen King book? Isn't Stephen King an author of books with demonic stuff in it, evil stuff in it? Isn't that like a little bit of a satanic world that you've dived into? This is the first Stephen King book I've ever read in my life. I knew that at one point I was going to be reading a Stephen King book, and a friend of mine who's a big fan of Stephen King advised me this one as one of his favorite books, and therefore I chose this one to read first. We have to realize that Stephen King even mentions himself that he believes in God. He has turned his back on organized religion, so to speak. He does believe in God, he does believe in the hereafter, or at least he says, I have nothing to lose if I believe in the hereafter, because if it turns out that there's no hereafter, I won't be there to realize that I was mistaken. Well, this is a good point, I guess. So he says, I believe in God, I believe in the hereafter, but I've turned my back on organized religion and stuff. Fine, okay, whatever. All I want to mention about this is that his books are full of things that will make you think about ethical and moral issues in life. He has said, I like to put ordinary people, Stephen King has said, I like to put ordinary people in extraordinary situations. Well, that worked out pretty well in this book. Ordinary people, you will know all the problems they have, you will have all the struggles that they have, but they are in a kind of an extraordinary situation, that a invisible dome has been placed over their little village and they can't get out, no one can get in, and there's a very evil dictator kind of guy who takes over power in that little village, and then things develop from there. I won't say any more, I don't want to give you all kinds of spoilers, and this information I guess is even on the back, so it doesn't really matter if I say that. He did a very good job in putting ordinary people in an extraordinary situation. It's interesting, I think, that the Bible is quoted over and over and over again in this book. I don't know about his other books, but in this book, many Bible verses pass by. And specifically for the Christian, that is interesting, because I think there are many people who will read this book. If they don't know anything about the Bible, they won't really understand what's going on with all the Bible verses being quoted. They won't even always realize that Bible verses are quoted. But if you are familiar with the Bible, this book is way more interesting for you than for anyone else. Now, obviously, he makes fun of Christianity. But I don't think that he makes fun of... Well, we would have to ask him, Stephen King, personally, but I don't think that he necessarily makes fun of God, or makes fun of Christ, or... Well, he makes fun of American Christianity. But American Christianity is not Christianity. American Christianity is not God. American Christianity is not Jesus. And probably his criticism, which is between the lines all over, on the religious movement called Christianity is probably even justified. Let's be reasonable. We as Christians, we've pretty messed up throughout 2,000 of years of Christianity. So I can't blame him for doing this at all, because probably he's right about many things that he's saying. This does not have to mean that he is criticizing Christ. I don't think it's blasphemy, what he's writing, saying. Many Christians will probably disagree with me on this one, because if you are not used to have people around you that ridicule the Lord or blaspheme, or... I mean, I grew up quite in a secular way, and I've had people around me who made fun of Christianity and religion in general. So when I read this, I wasn't really shocked. But if you grew up in a very very Christian environment and you start reading this book, you might be shocked about the things that he's saying and writing about the Bible, the way he quotes the Bible. By the way, I think he never quotes the Bible necessarily out of context at all. He knows the Bible pretty well, and he knows the meaning of the verses he's quoting very well. I would say he's actually almost like an expert on putting Bible verses into a contemporary context, so to speak, which is quite interesting, specifically for Christians. If you have a good stomach, because there's some pretty gross stuff going on in this book too, and if you like some adventure, this would be definitely a good book for you to read, specifically as a Christian, because you will have many Bible verses to think over while reading through this book. One last compliment I want to give to the author. Probably he will never see this YouTube movie, but nevertheless I want to give him a compliment for something. And that is that this book covers a few days. Everything takes place on, small area, small village. If you compare that, let's say, to a fantasy book, fantasy novel will often cover decades of time. Many different empires are being visited, quests. Authors of fantasy novels will bring in new creatures and new adventures, in each different chapter, because they have the privilege of writing a fantasy novel. The sky is the limit. For Stephen King, the sky is not the limit, because there's a dome literally over the village. So everything has to take place in that village, with those people, in these few days. If you can have that circumstances and write a novel with such great suspense, such great characters, very powerful writing. And he has limited himself literally in his options by putting that dome over that village. Has not stopped him from writing one of the most extraordinary novels of modern writing, I think. It's absolutely amazing. Well, I hope you appreciate this. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and have a very great day.